Okay, top five characters. Percy Jackson. We'll go ahead and start with yours.
All right, so my top five is Clarice LaRue. And I know she's not a popular character, but now that she's black, she's my problematic babe. So I see her now as like black female rage personified and justified. So I'm gonna stand beside her because do you remember that quest where in Sea of Monsters where she was literally prophesized to fail without friends and all of her siblings let her go alone? That was a hate crime. That was a hate crime. And this is why I have to stand beside her because Ares isn't a good man, but he's a funny man because he gave her Confederates as slaves after that happened to her. So I would have, but then he called her worthless on the boat. So this is why I'm like I have to stand beside her because she's really, yeah, she's angry and she's a bully and she's mean, but it's not like she's like that for no reason. People are constantly like testing her limits and they see that she's a very explosive person, and you think that make people take it easy with her, but they're constantly egging her on. And I don't like it when sensitive people are bullied like that because even though her sensitivity isn't coming off as, oh, I'm so shy and scared, instead it's coming off as, leave me alone, don't talk to me that way. You know, I can see the black woman in her. I'm gonna stand beside her.
That was all awesome. I've always liked Clarissa as well. I think her and Percy have a very interesting dynamic relationship. So that was powerful. First up, all the energy was there. So awesome. All right, so I'll go off with my number five. My number five, probably like not in a lot of people's top five, but it's Chiron. I kind of see him as kind of like the elder statesman. He reminds me of a lot of my teachers throughout high school, college, and whatever. He's wise and full of wisdom, but he's not gonna give it all to you. He's gonna make you work for it. He's gonna give you just a little bit of what you need and let you figure it out yourself. And I think those are the best type of teachers. You don't want teachers that don't help you at all. You don't want teachers that are just too overbearing and give you everything that you need. You have to make the student work for it. So I also think that in regards to the new Disney Plus show, I think Glenn Turman. I think that's a really perfect casting. I've
Yeah,
liked a lot
I
of his
love
other roles.
Chiron.
So yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I said I love the casting for Chiron.
Awesome. We already agree on a couple things. So awesome. All right. So let's go off and go ahead with your number four.
So my number four is Grover Underwood. And I don't really have an in-depth analysis for Grover, but that's my boy. That's baby boy for me. He's the anxiety representation I needed because, despite all of his fear and anxiety and paranoia, it's very on the surface. He speaks it out loud. He never says no. He's never said, I'm not going to do this. He'll say, I don't want to do this. He'll say, this is scary, but he'll say this is scary while walking down into the underworld. And that's what I love about him because he might not be seen as brave because he's always like, it comes off almost as complaining. But in reality, he's just listing all of the things that they need to be afraid of. And sometimes you need someone like that in your group to be like, hey, just because we're doing this and we've decided to be brave about this, let's not be stupid about it. It's still super dangerous and we should be careful. And I also love how he kind of like overcomes his fears to help people. Like his relationship with Tyson has always been super interesting to me, especially because they're both afraid of each other. But they both decide, you know what, for Percy, I'm gonna learn how to not be afraid of you. So yeah, that's why I love Grover.
That's awesome. It pains me, absolutely pains me to not have Grover in my top five. Spoiler alert. He's number six though. Like not even number six. He's five and a half, 5.1. Like he's just right there. I also love Grover. I kind of see a little bit of myself Grover. He's kind of like a jokester, but also he's very very warm, very kind person, and I think he really meshes well with our the Percys and Annabeths of the world. So awesome. Yeah. My number four. Then speaking of Annabeth, my number four is Annabeth, the daughter of Athena. She kind of reminds me of my little sister. Those type of girls. They're just too smart for their own good. They're always 10 steps ahead. And I really, just my sister's mannerisms and stuff. Like I think Annabeth is like just right there. Um, yeah, I think like similar to Grover. Like she's very kind. She's always wanted to help people out. And I love the archaeologist. Or is it? I don't want to say archaeologist. Like the architect in her, always holding on to her dream and whatnot. So I've always liked Annabeth. I think she's one of the top tier, like role models for like girls and whatnot. So Annabeth, 100% love her.
She's actually my top three, but for different reasons. So I love Annabeth for the reasons that I love Sally Jackson, which we'll get into. I wrote this from like one to five. The difference is Annabeth did get bitter and mean and spiteful at what life threw at her, but we got to watch her like grow and change out of that. Because Annabeth had just as rough a start as Sally, seeing the same monsters that no one else could see, and she ended up running away from home into the world of monsters because that's how unsafe her family made her feel. And then she finds found family in Percy and his friends and mom. And despite the fact that her pride almost gets them killed so many times, she ends up growing out of this almost. And, she learns that, sometimes you don't have all the answers and you have to trust other people to be able to make the decision, even if it's scary to not have control of the situation. But once she wisened up to that, she became a force to be reckoned with. She started using her enemies' negative assumptions about her against them instead of insisting on being seen by people who don't matter. An example is the scene between with the riddle, where she was been given questions that like she was like, "This is an insult to my intelligence," yada yada, and everyone was like, "Girl, shut up. We don't want to die. Your pride does not matter in this moment." And then we see her grow to the Heroes of Olympus series, where she's standing with Octavian, and instead of being like, "Oh, see me as the strong demigod that I am," she goes, "Oh, I'm such a silly ditzy blonde," and drops her knife into the lake because she knows that there's someone better who can handle the situation in the lake. So, and that's what we call growth, and that's why I like Annabeth so much.
Man, you're absolutely killing me in these descriptions. You're like going into full detail, and I'm out here like, oh, she reminds me of this, and you're out here writing whole dissertations. So I love it.
I'm a
Um,
fanfic writer, so that's why I have so much character analysis.
there we go. That makes total sense then. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Annabeth, we both. So that's one person we have in our top five. So my number three. Okay. So for the longest, I didn't know how to pronounce this person's name. I the way I've called it. Her name is Talia, but I've heard
I've been
people.
saying Folio.
That's what I've been saying my whole life, Talia.
Me too.
Okay, there we go. So we both agree on Talia then. Yeah, no, I absolutely adore Talia. I think me and her would be really good friends. She has this kind of chaotic energy that only a few people can vibe with. She's a leader. She's tough, but she's also fair and loving. I also think her story arc is probably one of the saddest in the Percy Jackson world. The fact that she died protecting her friends, and then literally missed like what, like 6 7 years of her childhood pretty much, being a tree, like Jesus Christ. And then when she comes back, the world is ending. She might be like the bearer of bad news of the world, that she might be somebody in this prophecy. And then her best, basically her little sister, like that she looks, she helped raise Annabeth, gets kidnapped from her. So Thala is just like, she just went through so much, and the fact that she's just so resilient and fought through it, it always, to me, I hold her to a high regard. And I love the fact that she took on being
I'll be right back. Sorry, but I'm listening.
yeah, the fact that she literally took on the challenge of being Artemis's number two. I think that was like a really big, character, like kind of like a step up for her and whatnot. So yeah, Dahlia, she's awesome. I wish we would have seen more of her as the stories went on. Like I think we really missed her.
Yeah. I also love Valia. I do agree that she has one of the saddest storylines. Like her and Hazel have some of the saddest storylines in this series. Especially like she comes out of that tree and it's not even just like Annabeth's kidnapped. Luke's basically gone evil and joined the dark side. She finds out her mom died in a car crash. And then when she tries to tell Percy about it, Percy's like, wait, so is that why you couldn't drive Apollo's car? Bro, shut up. Who said that? But yeah. Now I kind of wish I put her in my top five, but I don't want to change my top five.
Yeah, see, that's how I felt about Grover. Like, you convinced me so much. Like, oh, why did I leave Grover? Yeah, Talia's awesome. So awesome. All right, so go ahead with your. This is it. The top two. Go ahead with your number two.
Yes, top two. So my top two is Percy Jackson. So that's my boy right there. Percy Jackson is the poster kid of I would do anything for love. So many people forget that Percy is ruled by love, not anger, despite the fact that Aphrodite was one of the first deities to show him personal attention outside of the wars, because she didn't give a fuck about that war. Oh, sorry. She didn't even care about that war. And she just showed up and she straight up told him, listen, I don't care about that war. I'm here about you and Annabeth, okay? Literally every single one of the books was about Percy fighting to either find or rescue a loved one. Every single quest he went on for the gods was a side plot to him getting back either his mom or Grover or Annabeth or Nico, etc. So, yeah, Percy Jackson, I see him as the personification of love's wrath, and I eat that shit up every single time.
Awesome. Yeah. So I also have Percy number two. So there we go. We finally have a ding ding ding. One person that we connected with. Yeah. I I kind of look at Percy as like he's kind of like a typical, hero, but he's a little bit more. He's kind of everything you envision with a modern hero. I call it like a 21st century hero. He wants better from the adults around him, all the gods in the world, and he knows they can be much better than they are. He's also, wants to make sure that his friends are always safe. That's so important. But also, I love that Rick made it his fatal flaw because, you know, basically made him choose between his friends and the world type of thing. And I think that whole story arc with Percy really finding himself, we kind of slowly realize that he's kind of neutral. He doesn't like hate the gods, kind of like the Lukes of the world. But he also isn't like oh, the gods are awesome, they're everything. He's kind of neutral about it, and I think that's what you need to be like the protagonist of the series. You need somebody that's neutral. You need somebody that's going to be fighting for both sides. So I really like Percy. I think I personally think he's better than that's a whole nother topic. Like Jason Grace, for example, the hero of the.
Everyone does. Don't worry about it.
Okay, like I like Jason, but like I think Percy just has a little bit more nuance to him, and I think like he was the best character to be the protagonist in the series.
And I agree that Percy is he's a different type of modern hero, but he's almost perfect for it in the fact because all of these modern heroes are like, I wouldn't kill someone even if it saved the world. And Percy's like, I'd kill you if it saved my mom. Like, but the problem again with it being his fatal flaw is I'd also let the world die if it saved my mom. And that's where Percy's flaw comes in. And I understand where the Jason fans are like, well, Jason, he's not like that. He's so beautiful. So like, if it came between his mom and saving the world, he'd of course save the world. And I'm like, yeah, that makes for a good soldier. But we're reading the books. We want a good character, and Percy's that. So Percy's number 2, always.
Awesome. Well, this is it. I'm gonna get the drum rolls out. Your top number 1 character in the Percy Jackson series is
Sally Jackson.
Whoa.
I know. No one ever expects that.
What? Okay, I'm gonna let you, go in and, tell us why.
So Sally Jackson is my favorite character in the Percy Jackson series because despite the very few scenes she appears in, her decisions arguably shape the books, and I also find her personal story of perseverance very inspiring and hopeful. So she had the sight her entire life, so her life was already a world of monsters and nightmares that only she could see. Then she's orphaned at a young age and has to take care of an older dying relative. When they pass, she's left all alone trying to figure out how to live her life with no guidance from the people who might have been able to explain the things she was seeing. And then she catches the attention of a god and becomes pregnant with a child who's destined to have an unfathomably hard life. But this doesn't make her bitter. She does everything in her power at a great cost to herself to make sure he not only survives, but has as good a life as she can provide. And it's so apparent that that maternal love and grace and sense of duty and sacrifice molded Percy Jackson into the person he is today. To the point that even after everything he's been through, Sally's influence is one of the first things that shine through first in Percy. And that's why I love Sally.
That was a really good breakdown. I like you said, like I did not expect to be. Honestly, I didn't expect Sarah to be in anybody's like top five. So the fact that she's number one and you explained it really well, that's really awesome. Yeah, I've always liked Sally. I think, um, she's probably the best parent in the show, in the series, just because she's fully understanding of like what Percy's really going through. She kind of gives him that space compared to like some of the other parents are just tragedies. It's just very sad. Like
Like, let's not get into Frederick Chase. I hate
yeah,
that. I hate
Jesus.
that.
So yeah, Sally, she is a worthy number one. So my number one, so mine is also pretty controversial. My number one is Luke Castellion.
Nico.
No,
Who is,
it's Luke. My number one is Luke. I know,
is
like,
it like a problematic babe type of number one?
honestly,
Oh,
yes,
no.
a little bit, but okay, let me hear me out. Hear me out.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna hear you out.
You should know that I'm a big Avatar Last Airbender fan.
Me too.
And yeah, I mean, if you're basically grew up in the 2000s, you're probably a fan of Avatar: Last Airbender or Percy Jackson and or
Harry
um,
Potter, Hunger Games,
Hunger Games. Yeah, there's a lot of
Twilight.
series. And Luke reminded me of Prince Zuko.
You're
And
right.
let me tell you some of the characteristics they have that are very similar. Number one, they both have a father they hate. Well, I don't want to say hate. Let's say they have a father that they have a love hate relationship with. They want to make they wanted attention from their father. They wanted to be seen as they wanted to be seen as a normal human. Go ahead. But also they also want kind of in a way to destroy the old ways. They they want to make their own path to greatness. And lastly, they both want to kill the main protagonist of their series.
Yeah, they do.
Um, but they also have something else that is probably the main reason I connected them is they have a major arc twist that really shows just how complex their characters are.
Mm-hmm.
Their character arcs, are of pain, resilience, agony, regret, friendship, and lastly, sacrifice.
Yeah.
They both have siblings, or in this case, like other half bloods, that they were like friends with, that they grew up with, and that they have to basically choose between them and like their own idea, their own path to greatness. And I personally think Luke's story is also one of the saddest. The fact that like he, Talia, Annabeth, they're basically like children raising themselves around the world, fighting monsters. The fact that he never got his father's attention. The fact that he was kind of heralded as kind of like the leader, somewhat in the camp and whatnot. Like he he deserved much better. At the same time, like obviously, like he was going down a very dark path. But
Yeah.
the fact that at the end of the
Catch
day,
yourself stabbing kids to make the world a better place. Like, you gotta rethink shit.
yeah, I'm not gonna defend the bad shit that he did. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But
But his story is understandable.
right, and the sacrifice he made at the end, like it was one that like I hold up with like the sacrifice that like Harry Potter's parents did. It was really out of like love for his friends, and like his family. So Luke, I love his story arc. I think Rick's that was probably Rick's best written character. And yeah, that's my number one. Okay, awesome. That
I
was really dope. Go ahead.
I I really like the comparison with Luke and Prince Zuko because it really shows the difference between what happens when you have someone by your side trying to show you the right path, even if you're not listening, versus when you don't have anyone at all. And Luke didn't have anyone at all. I guess you could say he had Chiron, but as we know, Chiron, he's a great teacher, but he's got a lot of kids and he seems to be pretty desensitized to them dying and stuff happening to them. So he's not being as there for them as he should be. Luke didn't get the attention that he needed at camp, and that's why Cronus was able to get to him.
You just made some great points. Yeah.
If Ozai even got to Zuko, the only reason Zuko turned around is because he remembered everything Iroh taught him. Luke didn't have an Iroh.
There we go. Yeah, in a way, his Iroh was like Kronos, like basically feeding him those bad thoughts and whatnot. So I'm really glad that Luke really turned it around. So I'm really glad that you agree, like somewhat like that Luke is a very faulted character, but some of it is understandable. So okay, awesome. Yeah, well, yeah, thanks for coming out to this video. I really like your list. Go ahead and just read it out one more time, just 5 to 1.
5 to 1, we've got Clarice, we've got Grover, Annabeth Chase, Percy Jackson, and number 1, Sally Jackson.
Okay, awesome.
Well, Sally Blowfist,
Yeah, true. Okay, my number 5 to 1. I'll read it out quick. 5 was Chiron, 4 was Annabeth, 3 was Thalia, 2 is Percy, and 1 is Luke. So, okay, awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. I'm thinking of maybe doing one for the Heroes of Olympus as well. I know, not as popular as Percy Jackson series, but I like that series. It was good. So yeah, any last parting notes?
Um, be nice to Clarice, and they're gonna eat you up in the comments for putting Luke over Percy. I'm sorry.
I'm ready. I'm ready to defend Luke's honor. R.I.P. my guy.